Hey y'all! Today we are going to be doing a foundation demonstration and review on the Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brightening Powder Foundation. While this is not a new foundation to the market and it's not a new to me foundation, it's been the foundation for the last 6 months I have reached for almost on a daily basis, as I can wear it over a tinted sunscreen or an untinted sunscreen, and it's just so easy to work with. Today's video will be broken into some different segments, so if there's a particular section you want to watch, I will have everything broken down in the description box down below, so little timestamps so you could find either final thoughts, wear test, whatever it is that you would like to see in the description box down below. And this foundation, the tools I used, and everything else I'm wearing will also be listed in the description box down below. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Zach. I'm a makeup artist and medical esthetician based in Toronto, Canada. And here on my YouTube channel, I like to take makeup and beauty products and make it as simple as easy as I can for the everyday person like you and me. So if that sounds interesting, let's get right into this video. To start off my powder foundation application, I always like to prime first. And with powder foundations, a lot of them tend to be more of a matte to a natural matte finish. The Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten Foundation, this is one that leans more on the satin matte side. So since this does have a little bit of a luminosity, I don't want my base to be too shiny. I like a little bit of a glow in select areas. So to start off with priming, I'm going to use my Tatcha Liquid Silk Canvas. This is going to give more of a natural matte finish. I'm going to apply it down the T-zone. I like a little bit more radiance on the perimeter of my face, more so like the cheek area where my pores aren't as large and my skin tends to be a little bit more dehydrated than the center T-zone of my face where my oil production is a little bit heavier. So for that, I'm going to use the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Glotion in Fair Glow, and I'm going to apply a little bit of this just on this outer area, almost like a pre-foundation highlighting step. When considering applying a powder foundation or any type of foundation for that matter, keep in mind the look you want to have in the end. So for me, I like more of a naturally luminous demi-matte finish. That means the sunscreen I used, which will be listed down below, is going to have a little bit more of a luminous radiant finish. That underneath this more natural matte powder foundation will help give more of an overall more realistic skin-like effect. When applying your powder foundation, there are two different trains of thought. You can either apply your powder foundation first and then you can apply a liquid concealer on top. I'm a little old school. I like to do liquids and creams and then powder so that way I don't mess with anything moving around. So I'm going to conceal first, and today I'm using one of my favorites, which is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind, and I wear shade Fair. Part of what I really like about using powder foundations and making them look more natural versus a thick layer of powder all over the skin is using a little bit just to even out the overall complexion. You can see far added concealer under my eyes, but I want to look for the areas that have a little bit more pigmentation. So for me, that's like my chin where I'm a little bit more red. I'm going to scribble on some concealer. So what this is going to do, it's going to add a little bit of coverage under our foundation, but since we're applying it more sparingly and really spreading it out, it's going to allow you to have more of a realistic finish at the end. You can always just apply it with a brush and move on. I like to kind of spread the product out with a brush, and then I'm going to use a sponge. The sponge is going to help kind of press concealer and the primers that we used into the skin, so that way that is going to allow the powder foundation to sit as close to the skin as possible. Now that our groundwork is done, we can move on to the star of the show, which is the Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten Powder Foundation. I have the shade Porcelain. With the Laura Geller powder foundations, there is a decent shade range, but the shades I feel like they could use in between shades. Porcelain is my closest match. It's slightly too light for me, but if I go up to shade Fair, then it pulls a little too dark and it's a little bit warmer in the undertone. So using this shade with a little bit of a lighter hand will allow me to create a really beautiful look, but I'm gonna have to warm up a little bit of bronzer just to keep things looking realistic and in balance with my neck and my body. To apply my powder foundation, I really enjoy using this Love Beautifully from the It Cosmetics brushes for Ulta. This is the Buffing Mineral Powder Brush. So with this foundation, you have a mixture of tones. I like to really get a nice mix on my brush and then tap off the excess. When applying powder foundation, whether it's on myself or a client, doesn't matter the age or skin type, I like to break the face down into quadrants. That way you're making sure you're getting a nice even layer of powder. So I'm gonna start with a little bit on and I'm gonna stipple it on. So this is almost kind of pressing pigment onto the skin to create almost like a veil. Or if you're someone who bakes and you're thinking about like how you kind of form a really beautiful cake, you always start with a crumb coat. Think of this as your crumb coat. So once you have your crumb coat all over the skin, now we're gonna take a little bit more of that foundation on our brush, tap off any of the excess, really knock it off because you already have product on the skin. We're just taking a little bit more to help this buffing glide a little bit more seamlessly. This is gonna also help you kind of smooth the appearance of the skin. So starting off in your first quadrant, now that that powder's had some time to sit onto the skin and kind of melt into the skin, you're gonna take your brush and buff. With powder foundations, I often find the more you buff, the better it looks. And I find this buffing longer than you would think to be especially helpful when working with mineral powder foundations, whether they're something baked like this holy-grail or something loose like the classic Bare Minerals foundation. The more you buff, the more these kind of powder pigments kind of melt into the skin, take on more of a creamy effect. Now, a little trick I always like to do, and I do this with liquid or powder foundations, if you're someone who has short hair or you're doing a look for a special event, maybe you're gonna wear your hair up, always take a little bit of foundation on your ears. Our ears tend to be a little bit more red than the rest of the body. So you just wanna make sure they're all balanced. That way you don't look like you're a bunch of different colors. Kind of keep everything as harmonious as you can. And on my neck, I like to run the foundation colors, start primarily in the middle of the neck, and then to the sides, and that will help just kind of keep everything balanced. Now, here is more what I would call a light to light medium coverage, which is my preference for every day. But you can still see I have a spot of hyperpigmentation. There's still a little bit of redness right through here, which is fine with me. But if you want to build it up, you can. Take your brush, pick up a little bit more product, dust off the excess, and then kind of focus right where you want the coverage, press it in. This time we're not gonna add any more product. Where you just stippled on that extra product, you're gonna do very light, concentrated, small buffing motions. And that's just gonna help smooth everything out. Here is the Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten foundation applied. I really love this foundation. It has a really nice, natural matte, borderline satin finish. If I grab my little magnifying mirror and I look up close, it is a powder foundation. Right now, you are gonna see it on the skin a little bit, but use a setting spray, give it about 10 to 15 minutes to warm up, meld with the natural oils or sebum of the skin, and it's gonna look very nice, very smooth. So here is our final look, and most everything I used was Laura Geller. All of the products I used and the tools I used will be listed in the description box down below. And thanks to all of you, I have been approved for affiliate marketing. So if you click the link either on my website or here on my YouTube channel, I will make a small commission at no additional cost to you. So it just allows me to reinvest into my channel. On to the pressing thing. What are my thoughts and opinions on this Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten Powder Foundation? Well, I've been using it for over 6 months now. And while this is not a first impression, I can give you a thorough review because it's what I like. And I've got working room with it. Over the holiday season, when I was gone for 6 weeks, I brought this with me because it's so easy to use. I can use it today like I wore over an untinted sunscreen, or the way I use it most often in my everyday life is I'll apply this over top of a tinted sunscreen. And what that allows, it allows me to get a little bit more coverage without having to add more powder on top. So I can really ensure that the product stays looking as realistic and as natural as possible on the skin. If you're someone with very, very oily skin, you might find the little bit of natural luminosity that this has to be a little overwhelming. Or if you're someone who has extremely dry skin, or your skin is very, very dehydrated, you would really need to work on your prep work, as since this is a powder foundation, it can make the appearance of dryness or dehydration look exaggerated. So if you want to use something like that, definitely look into using more of a hydrating base before you apply it, and that will help give you a little bit more slip and glide to creating more of almost a creamy look with this product. If you're someone who wants more than, say, a medium coverage when built up, this might not be the best match for you. I feel like this foundation looks its best when it's worn from a sheer to light to a light to medium coverage. You can build this up to a medium pushing full, but at that level, you're going to start looking a little cakey, and that's not the fault of the product. It's just kind of more than I feel like it was designed to do. As far as my favorite application, I really enjoy using the brush I use today, which is the It for Ulta Mineral Buffing Foundation brush. There's also a retractable kabuki brush that you can oftentimes get in a kit with this on Laura Geller's website. It's nice, not my favorite. I've tried sponges because I know that's a really viral thing to do right now, is apply powder to the sponges. I'm not a fan of it. I just feel like it looks very, very heavy on the skin because you're depositing such a large amount of product with a sponge onto the skin. So for me, I like a fluffier brush, something like this, and I like to build up. As far as the shades go, like I mentioned earlier, there is a decent amount of shades. The shades are quite flexible, but I feel like there are some spots in the range that could use a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of more expansion, because there's a lot of skin tones out there, and the shades that this has, I feel like they could use a little bit more work. All in all, I really, really love this powder foundation. For me, this is one of the first powder foundations I have fallen in love with since my MAC Studio Fix powder, which is one of my all-time favorite foundations in general, of liquid and powder, and it was the second video on my YouTube channel. So this is like my everyday contender next to the MAC, because I find this a little bit easier to work with for my preferences on a daily basis. So I feel like if you're someone who likes more of a natural makeup, you like more of a natural matte finish, and you like something that just feels very lightweight, feels like your skin but enhanced, I feel like you might really, really enjoy the Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brightening Foundation. If you found today's foundation review and demo helpful, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and share it with a friend. While it's a small step for you, it does so much for helping to grow and share my YouTube channel with more people out there. So thank you so much for spending your time with me today, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.